Hello and welcome to our second ever episode of the Writing Vikings. Yes, we now have a name. I'm Lizzie and this is Vendela. Today we are going to talk about the recent blockbuster film, The Northman. It's a bit of a topical topic, if that is such a word, for Vendela over the last month or so. She's been had a lot to say about it, and now I have finally watched it. So we haven't talked anything about it together yet. So everything is going to be fresh here. But before we go in and talk about the Northman, I have a very short story that I would like to share. Not my story. This is from a Viking saga.
I have no idea what you're about to say, so I'm actually really intrigued.
Yeah. So basically, there are two Vikings, Thorbjorn and Atli, and neither of them like each other particularly much. In fact, Thorbjorn actually wants to kill Atli. One day, Atli is in his house and he doesn't know if Thorbjorn is coming to attack him or not. He's not quite sure what's going on. And as he sat there, he hears a knock on the door. And he doesn't want to answer this himself because he doesn't know who it is, if it could be someone dangerous. So he sends one of the women in his house to go and open the door for him instead. But when the women open the door, there's nobody there. So she says back, she tells Atli this, and then they just decide, that's a bit strange, but okay, we'll close the door and just carry on doing whatever we were doing in the evening. There comes another knock on the door. This time Atli goes and opens the door. Again, there's nobody there. It's completely empty on the valley or the field or wherever they are before them. So he turns around to tell the women in the house that, there was no one there again. And as he does this, Thorbjorn rushes out of the bushes and stabs him through the chest with a spear. Atli looks down at the spear and says, "Broad spears are becoming fashionable nowadays," and dies.
Where did you get this story from?
It's in Grettir's saga.
I've not heard it before.
It's one of the latest sagas. It is a very good saga. It's one of my favorite ones. It's got a lot of magic in it. So there's a lot of ghouls and curses and bear fighting and things. But yeah, I remembered reading this a few years back and just being like, yeah, okay, they were doing.
They had a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Do you have a copy of the book?
I have had two copies of the book. I have lost both copies of that book. So I actually had to Google this to remember exactly what it was he said again. But I can recommend looking it up.
Long spears are becoming fashionable again.
Yeah. It was either long spears or broad spears or spears. I don't know what the actual Old Norse is. There's a few different translations. And I think it's only in one particular translation where they've translated it that particular way, but it's the funniest way. So I think it should just be assumed that that's what they actually said.
Let's go. Let's go with that. I'm actually I'm really bad at reading old sagas and so on. I haven't even read the Edda, which I should have done, seeing as I'm writing a Norse retelling, and I haven't read the sort of official book with the stories. I've just sort of read the stories, I guess, a bit online and in in other books, but I haven't read the sort of official translation, which I want to do. But anyways, thank you for sharing. You came way more prepared for this episode than I did. I'm completely expecting you to lead us through this episode because you watched The Northman I guess quite recently, and I watched this maybe a month before you did. I mean, I watched it a while ago now, and I only remember the things that stood out to me. I don't remember exactly in which order everything happened. So
but I'll just interrupt you and say, but what you have is the pure passion.
Yeah, I think I've ranted about this twice, once on our virtual writing sort of meetup Zoom in the mornings. I had a full-on rant about it there, and then I had another rant in person with you at the Viking village. So you've heard my opinions twice, and I have no idea what you actually think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've probably got some more concrete comments and like critique, and I just have feelings and opinions.
I think we're affected by that. You went into it not knowing what to expect. I went into it with an eye that was already critical. So I don't have like, I think you feel more passionately about it than I do. Whereas
I went in with very high expectations. Like this was a Viking film coming out. I was seeing it in the cinema. I was super excited. I had a good cast, you know, and it just came out not very happy. So there were some good points, but we're going to focus on the bad.
Yeah, but I would like you to, okay, if you can summarize in a minute or less your overall feelings about the Northman as a Kickstarter.
Historically inaccurate in a lot of ways, confusing, long, just nothing made sense. I did like the magical approach. Sometimes it was weird and odd to watch, and you didn't know what was going on, but it was interesting. It was a new take, different from other Viking films or TV series I've seen. So that was nice and new, but I still just could not make sense of most of it. So, you know, but that's my general impression without too much, you know, without going into it too much. What about you? Or do you want to?
Yeah, I'll say my overall impression is that
it would be really funny if you went around now and went, I loved it. It was great. Everything about it was right.
What I'm going to say is that I could tell that there was a lot of like artistic passion put into it.
Exactly, yeah.
But I would really have liked it if the script could have taken about 100 more rounds of editing. Because there's a lot about it that has potential. I mean, you have good actors, and the actors are acting the hell out of their parts, but there's not that much substance to what we're actually seeing, I feel. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the beginning, and I'm actually going to start with something I do like, and one of the few ways that actually counters the historical.
I guess it goes without saying that there's just spoilers.
Oh yes.
So if you haven't watched it and you don't, if you intend to watch it, you might as well just turn it off. But you might have already done so. So you know. But okay.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah. So there were a couple of things I appreciated in the beginning, and there is one way in which it actually is a little bit more historically accurate than other Viking period pieces. And this is something I'd heard before I'd seen it, that it's got a lot of praise for its clothing. And whilst I wouldn't say in every case everything is like historically perfect, I did feel like in the places where I was questioning things, I still felt like they tried to base something off a find somewhere. So like, I mean, the first thing I noticed was, I think one of the opening shots, there is a kid standing on a wall or something, but it has like a really close up on his, I think it's his cloak or it's his clothing, and you can see, I think it is a diamond pattern on that, and that is a very common weave from the Viking age, and like about half the people in the Viking village have that same pattern on their clothing. And a lot of the general clothing, I was like, it is based on something. I'd say there's a little bit too much red sometimes. Like he's at some point he picks up like a really bright red cloak from like a peasant and is running around it. I'm like, how did the peasant have a cloak that red? But I'm assuming that's more for the visual impact, obviously.
I will say, having seen or watched a lot of Viking inspired or Viking based films, the costumes tend to be gorgeous. I mean, really pretty and way more extravagant than would have been realistic. Um, so a lot of like really intricate designs and so on, which isn't high. I suppose you do follow the most important people in a film, don't you? You don't tend to follow the peasant necessarily, but they did actually wear a lot of sort of plain clothing, I'd say, in this one, like the general tunics and trousers that you don't always see in other series. So I'll give it a thumbs up for that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also I don't know how much this actually added to the film, but I did like that when they showed kind of the rune titles. So every
I
time they
like
go to a new
that.
location, they show them in runes. And actually, what they write in runes is not what the English translation is underneath. It's the name of the place as they call it in the series. So I think the first one, I don't remember what it translated to. It might have said something.
It said the Baltic Sea. It didn't say like somewhere in the middle of the or in the Atlantic.
Yeah, it might have said Atlantic, but what it actually says in runes is heaving, so Raven Sea.
But they do refer to him as the Raven King, don't they?
Yeah,
yeah.
And I thought that
makes
a nice
total
touch.
sense. Yeah, I actually did like it. When that's the opening image, isn't it? The runes, and I already at that point I got my hopes up because I was like, oh, this is going to be good. The tone it set was really nice.
And the next thing I have, because you said you got excited about this, it's also to do with clothing, but when Nicole Kidman is playing with the
she brick weaves.
Yeah.
What's it called in English?
Tablet weaving.
Yeah. I thought when I saw that, I was like, I've never seen this in a show before. I thought that was really exciting, actually. She hardly touches it. It's sat there and I think she's in the middle of doing it, right? And then she lets go of it when he enters the room or something like that. And then we don't see any more of it. So you didn't get to see her do it as per se, but I got really excited about it. Okay, continue. Sorry.
And I liked that we got to see tablet braiding. However, it was very, very clear for me, who has done tablet braiding, that Nicole Kidman did not know what she was doing. This is something that is very minor. There's only going to be a small percentage of the people that watch the film that know how tablet weaving is done. But for me, who knows how it's done, it's quite clear that somebody told her to sit down and just kind of touch the tablets and then run her hand underneath like this for a bit between the threads, because she's not actually doing any movements that would actually weave anything. She's just kind of touching it. So that was very, very clear to me, but it's nice that it is there. And I would be quite impressed if they actually did decide to teach Nicole Kidman how to
well, gold star for effort. Right, no, but I did notice that action. I think I did mention it to you, didn't I, when we spoke about it the first time, that I quite liked that it was just in there at all.
The next point I have is farting, burping dogs, ?
I don't know if I remember this. Is this during the feast when he's returned?
No, I think it's that kind of ritual thing that he takes him to as a kid.
Oh yeah. And yeah.
I think I know what they were trying to do with that.
I don't.
I do, purely because I've been studying a bit of anthropology lately, and in some of our classes we've talked about how shamans in different cultures, when they try to embody another animal, so they actually, they don't necessarily experience it the way we might, that we're pretending we're this other animal, but they invite the spirit of that animal into them and act as if they are that animal. And for them it is actually, they are not a person anymore, they are whatever animal they are trying to communicate with or seek inspiration from. I don't know enough about it to go into detail about it, but I got a vibe from that scene that that's what they were trying to do there without explicitly saying it, because they do act as if they are dogs in that scene.
Don't they actually say something like, you need to be a dog before you're a man, or something like that, that he isn't a man at that moment or something. It is a very odd scene. It's almost
Yeah.
comical. You know,
Yeah,
it's almost like a parody. It's like they're making fun of something. It's very odd. This is the thing. I'm not confused of the tone of this
yeah.
film
Yeah,
because
and
I
that's
can't almost take it seriously because it just I felt like they weren't really taking it seriously. I don't know.
it's like I feel like that is what they were aiming for, like what I was talking about, but how it comes across, like you don't understand the context of this. Most people
No,
aren't. It does come
no.
across as really odd. It's like, why are they kneeling there? Why are they just burping and
They're
farting?
drinking from a bowl, aren't they? As
Yeah,
well, like dogs.
yeah, and it's like you're expected to just kind of accept that that's what they're doing
Yeah.
without much of a context or understanding of how this actually works into their actual lives.
Or
um
what the point of the
mm,
ritual is really.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I also don't know if like where they how they decided to connect that with the Viking Age either, because obviously magic and shamanism was a thing, but I don't know if we've yeah, there's a lot of creative license
Also,
there.
it's a bit like a völva,
Mm,
a seeress in Viking times,
mm,
or a witch, if you like. They were mostly women, and I find that very often in films they're depicted as men, which would have been taboo. You know, you would have
mm,
taken on a women's role. Like they existed, but they were rare. And you've got both in Vikings, the TV series, it's a man,
mm,
and in this film it was a man as well. I think the only
mm,
time I've really seen a woman, it's in the Lost Kingdom.
mm.
It's actually a woman that takes on this sort of magical character, and she's just completely mental, and I don't like that character because she's weird. um
How
but here again, yeah.
I did have one theory about that I came later on, because I don't remember exactly, but when they go to see him, do they mention something about Odin?
I
Just
don't
beforehand. I
remember.
don't remember exactly either, but I noticed that when he comes back, that particular shaman later on in the film,
Yeah,
he is
I know which
wearing
scene you
women's
mean.
clothes. He's wearing an apron dress with buckles, and he has a Sayed staff, which is the magical staff.
Does he wear that?
Mine, yeah, it's
When he sat there with, we'll talk about this later, I guess, but
yeah,
he sat there with a skull, right?
yeah. So
It's
they
an
are,
odd scene. Yeah,
yeah,
I
so they
don't
are clearly
remember him wearing that.
aware that his role is one that is feminine, even though
Okay,
he is a man. So
okay.
I think they are doing references to that, and I liked that even though they'd chosen to go with a man, they decided to do that to kind of show that he's a man who's
Mm.
doing an effeminate role.
I did not register the apron dress, to be
Mm,
honest. I missed that, or I don't
yeah.
remember it. So in that case, fair enough.
So now I've gotten to kind of the point where he is leaving the island. So as the kid,
As a kid, yeah.
yeah, and I was just like, he was really lucky that boat was there. And how is
He's
one
really lucky
kid,
throughout the whole freaking
I know, I
film.
was like, how is one kid rowing out on his own into the middle of the Atlantic
There
Ocean?
is literally not a land in sight. He has got no food. He's got no water. He's literally just got the clothes on his back. Like that's
Hmm,
it. I don't even know if he knows which way to row, if there
yeah,
is a direction to row. And and then it's just
he's suddenly in
and then
Russia.
he's in Russia and he's a grown man, isn't he? Right?
Yeah,
Or is yeah, that's
yeah.
it. That's the last we see of him, and he's just a grown man, and he's Alexander Skarsgård, and from then on he's like topless,
Hmm,
and it's just
yeah. And like I feel like they tried to make a reference that then, now that we jump to him as an adult, that oh, he's still processing the trauma as a kid, but they did it in such an unflattering way, I felt, because I mean he's with a group of like warriors
wolves.
that yeah, that are going to attack a town, and then they're burning and killing all the children, and he just turns his back. And I get the feeling like the film wants us to feel sympathy for him having to suffer with kids being killed behind him, because it reminds him of his past. But all I can think in that moment is like,
They're howling
dude,
like wolves.
yeah, and and also
That's
like, you're one of them. I don't feel any sympathy for you anymore.
no,
You've
no, no,
let
no.
them do this for years. Why did you join up with them?
The
Um,
way I remember it is that they're stood in front of a wall, right? Like this gang of a wolf warriors. And the leader says something like, now you're wolves, you're not man, or whatever, or you need to remember to be the wolf. I don't know. They're all wearing some kind of piece
Wolf
of fabric.
skin, like fur of some kind.
Yeah, I feel like they're basically naked with bits of fabric in front of the private parts. And are they wearing like wolf
Yeah, they have like
skins
pelts over them,
pelts?
so they're
Yeah.
like creeping forward.
And then they attack this wall, they climb up, and then they just kill everyone.
Mm. I also loved how there was a guy shooting arrows at them who runs down to get more people to like archers to shoot arrows at them, and the arrows conveniently pause in the moment where all of like Alexander Skarsgård's group stand up and expose their chests and go like roar. The arrows conveniently pause, and then as they start charging, the arrows
Literally,
start again.
if he stands there shouting, bare-chested, honestly, shoot him, or just grab a handful of arrows, run up to him and just jam them into his chest. Anything, literally, do anything, but don't just stand there.
I mean, I guess they were just stunned by Alexander Skarsgård's chest.
I mean, who wouldn't be? And then they just go into this town and they just raid it. They just kill everyone. And I think he somehow like conveniently avoids killing a kid or something like that. And he kind of lets someone else kill the kid or something.
Yeah, he just turns away, I think.
Yeah.
And I think going to the barn.
Yeah, and I think at that point we're sort of meant to be like, oh, he's not a bad guy. He doesn't kill children. But I mean, really? Like,
but I can say there was one extra in that scene who I really liked, and I wish she'd been able to do a bit more. Like, there's this kind of, at some point, there's just like this sassy, I'm going to call her like a sassy grandma, because she's this old woman who just like charges out, and I can't remember exactly what she does, but she attempts to fight back, and she looks really badass. But then the second they like grab her and pick her up, she just flops like a wet rag. And I'm like, come on, she had spunk. I wanted more of sassy grandma.
Now we're in this village, town, whatever. Now, before you leave this whole like town and move on to a next sort of plot point, I need to point something out about this town. So go ahead. But yeah, before the character leaves the town, I wanna make a comment that really stuck out to me. But yeah, keep going.
I think you're okay to you can make the comment, because I am not entirely sure what my next points refer to.
Okay. They set a building on fire, and then I think it's like sort of a night, they're resting or whatever, and he decides for some reason to leave the house or the building that they're in, and he decides to take a stroll through the village. Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah. It was a scene that looked kind of pretty but didn't make any sense at all. Right?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, fair enough. It had a nice costumes and
I mean, to be fair, that might be a good description for most of the film.
yes, it very well could be. Anyways, he clearly walks around the village, and clearly he senses something in the air, or like the atmosphere changes, and he takes a turn and he goes into this dark building, and there is this witch stood there, or shaman, or Völva, Cirrus, I don't know, or if she's meant to be a depiction of the Norns, but she stood there and basically says something like, it's your fate to take revenge or something, or you will have something like that. And I'm like, okay, but how? Says who? Like, who are you? Who are you? Like, what's your power? What I think she's blind or something, like she can't see, or she's got some kind of mask over her eyes. I think she's got an owl or something. She's got a staff where she's holding something. I don't know. It looks very sort of witchy. She doesn't look what I would imagine a Viking witch to look like.
Yeah, I did remember you talking about that, and I tried to pay attention when she came up, and I meant to try to look up what her outfit might be a
There's
reference
loads of
to.
feathers going on.
It's actually corn, I think. It's more like wheat.
Oh yeah, maybe. No, I can
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, I
I
did.
can.
I did want to look up what that was because, again, I feel like everything's been based on something, but I don't know
Mhm.
exactly what this is.
But then she
Yeah.
basically says something like, "You need to go home and take your revenge or karma." I just feel like it's one of those things where it's like he needs to go back
Mhm.
to his home to get revenge on his dad or whatever. By the way, the dad's dead. His uncle killed him, in case you weren't aware, but that's why he escapes. And they just need to get him there, or they need to get him to want to go back and kill his uncle or whatever. And the only way to get him there is for someone to tell him to go there. And so they've put this witch here. I don't even know what she's doing there in the first place. Like, he's basically just at the right place at the right time. Like, why? How else was he going to stumble into this woman who tells him to go home and kill this dude? Like, no,
Hmm.
no, like, no. It
Yeah.
makes no sense.
And then
Unless you can explain to me that actually does make sense, in which case
Nope.
I rest my case. No, okay, it doesn't
No.
make sense. There you go. It makes
And
no sense.
I can even follow on. Like, I didn't quite get as annoyed at her, but I got very confused with his method of getting back to Iceland.
But
Like,
can we just appreciate
okay,
that he just
yeah,
goes, okay,
yeah.
okay, I'll just go then.
Yeah.
Like, does he even question her? Like,
Mm.
if I walked into a building and this freaky looking witch told me to go home where my dad was killed or whatever, he does say though, he's like, "Father, I will avenge you. Mother, I will save you.
Yeah, which it's
Uncle, I
hinting
will,"
like,
that he will do it, right?
yeah. So it's
Right?
hinting like I am creating my own prophecy for my own tragedy.
Yeah. And so he has this sort of list of
Mm.
things he will do, kind of like Arya Stark does in Game of Thrones. She's got the list of people that she will kill, sort of thing, that she like chants all over every time she goes to sleep. And he's got this sort of thing like, "Mother, I will save you. Father, I will avenge you. Uncle," I can't remember the uncle's name, "I will kill you," or whatever. And so I guess with that already in mind, he accepts his fate to go home. But it's just, I just, no, it's literally one of those points where it's like, someone needs to send him there. Let's put her here. And like, no, I just don't accept it. That's all. We can move on now. I've had my
Yeah.
rant about this scene.
Yeah. So I had more problems with, for starters, why is he in Russia if he's just going to leave Russia straight away? And two, like what he does to get out of Russia is he pretends he's a slave and sneaks onto a slave boat that decides to sell their slaves in Iceland. And I'm like, why are the traders in Russia selling Russian slaves to Iceland? There's the whole of Scandinavia in between them. And as far as I'm aware,
Also,
like
the
most,
Norwegians were huge slave traders.
no, but
Sorry,
as
everyone that's
far as I'm
so were the
aware,
Swedes. But I mean,
no, but more like, as far as I'm aware, most of the slaves that went to Iceland were from Ireland.
Ireland. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
it's more just in terms of like, I'm pretty sure they could have found
Well,
traders on the
yes.
way in Sweden or Norway to sell them to. It just
No,
feels
I
very
think
convenient that they're going to Iceland.
there were loads of. I think
Mm,
I hate to say this, but the Norwegians had a huge slave trade in Ireland, sending them to Iceland.
yeah.
That's to say, like, all Vikings were basically slave
Mm.
traders. Like, but that was a known sort of slave, I guess, like business or trade,
Yeah.
like route. Are they in which? Does it say which Russian city they're in? Are they in Kiev?
No, it just says somewhere
Or
in that
like,
area.
yeah.
And like I said, I'm not questioning the fact that they are trading slaves. I'm just questioning that they wouldn't have sold.
Also,
It wouldn't have been closer to sell them
no,
somewhere else.
the Vikings that went to Russia were the Rus Vikings, mostly from Sweden, right?
Sweden.
That's why
I am
Russia is
right
called.
now.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why Russia is called Russia. The Rus
Mm.
Vikings went to Russia, and they did the slave trade there. Like, that's just So yes, from a historical then perspective, that doesn't, the geographical movement doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Um,
But
I don't know what he's doing there. I think he's there to pick up the girl, basically,
Yeah, I think so.
because she
Like,
speaks. I don't know if the actress actually speaks Russian. She speaks Russian in the Queen's Gambit, so I'm
yeah,
wondering if she actually conveniently actually does speak Russian,
yeah.
or if it even is Russian in the film, or if it's a sort of Norse or Old
Mm.
Norse.
I I'm going to assume she probably speaks Russia. I don't know for sure either.
Yeah,
But it also makes me wonder if they're in Russia because they got her to be that person. I
that's
don't
what I'm wondering. Have they um sort of made the plot to fit the actors that they've got? In which case,
know.
I don't like I don't like it, because that's just a convenience thing, really.
Mm.
She's great. I really like her as an actress, really.
I wish her
Um,
character did more,
yes.
but
Oh my God, she had such potential, and yet she gotten hardly any screen time. She
yeah,
hardly did
it's like,
anything. She was meant to be this amazing witch, and like she had some mushrooms, right? And that was it.
yeah.
And I'm like,
And like she
it's
had
like she
this,
slipped through our fingers. It was such a shame.
yeah, like she had this amazing line was like, oh, you can break their bodies and I can break their minds or something like that. And I got super excited. I was like, oh,
But she
this could
didn't.
be so much fun. And then she does nothing.
And it was actually such
Mm,
a waste, such wasted potential, to be
mm.
honest, because she was one of the highlights of the film. But yeah, there you go. All right.
Mm.
Okay, so we've left Russia, I think. He's on this slave boat. He's going back to Iceland.
The next thing I've got written down is Draugr, which was something that I appreciated because they feature in Norse sagas in kind of a similar way it is depicted there. So that's when I don't remember who it is. This
I
was
don't
about
remember this.
I
You're
paused
gonna
it,
have
but
to fill me in.
yeah, I don't remember the point of it, and I don't remember when, but there's somebody sneaks into like an underground burial chamber and takes a weapon, and then whoever was there with the weapon attacks them.
Yeah,
And that
and the
happens,
moonlight.
yeah. That
Mhm.
is very like that happens in sagas. That happens in Grete's saga.
But it was
Also.
very much I feel
Mm,
like the story was very anchored in the
mm,
sagas. That's the thing. That's what I actually liked, the whole
yeah.
magical aspect of it. It was just it came across a little
It's,
odd and out of
yeah.
context and weird. But the fact that it was more, yeah, that I had the whole saga magical situation, it was quite cool. It was
Mm,
quite nice. That was a good scene.
yeah.
I didn't understand how he really got there and he managed to do all of it
Mm,
in one night without being
no.
discovered. But it was a pretty cool scene. It was the moonlight. I think he stole the sword from this
Mm,
skeleton guy sitting on a throne, and then it came alive. He had to fight it, and then he impaled him, or he shoved the sword in when this spot of moonlight shone down from a gap in the ceiling of this cave. And then it was like it reversed, and this skeleton guy woke up again, and he managed to behead him. Yeah, something
mm.
like that. It was cool. That was a good scene.
I wish
But
it
it
just
was
had a bit more context.
yeah,
But yeah.
because when I can't even explain it. I think people are listening to this and they're like, all right,
Yeah, I'm wondering how much sense
doesn't
we're
sound
gonna
as cool
actually
as you.
make.
Yeah, so
Um,
it was a cool if we had gotten a bit more, yeah, I
mm,
feel like a lot of it was anchored in sort of prophecy slash fate, the
mm,
fate being woven the way that, but it just came across like everything was just out of context and jumbled, and the narrative, the thread, things making sense, things actually, one action leading to another, that
mm.
didn't it it just didn't have that aspect of storytelling. I don't know
Yeah,
if
and
any
it's
of
like
that made sense.
whenever they speak in quite a poetic manner, which
Yeah,
I think is supposed to be a reference to the skalds, but it doesn't really
and it's
like
quite
this.
nice. I like the approach,
It,
but when nothing else makes
mm,
sense, or when then that the speech doesn't make sense either.
no,
Yeah.
and like I think that brings to like, I think I've already mentioned this, but to develop it a bit further, like one of my biggest problems with it was that it didn't feel like the characters were people. They were just
No.
like the plot tools to get from
Yeah.
A to B. And
Yes.
like it was,
We
I
didn't
felt
get to know
very,
any of them really.
no, and I felt very unclear as to who, like, was there anybody I was supposed to kind of support or feel empathy for?
I didn't
Because
even feel empathy for, what was the main guy even called?
I have no idea. I'm just calling them by their actors because that's all I saw. Um, but
Basically Skarsgård,
yeah,
right? The main character.
and I think the scene that I felt this the most is that when he goes back to Iceland, he goes disguised as a slave and gets taken on by his uncle, who is now married to his mother.
Nicole Kidman.
Yes, who is Nicole Kidman. And then in
Who,
the
by the way, I think we must have at least, it must have been like 15 years or something, and she's not aged one
actually, I
day.
think she must be the witch.
Probably,
Yeah.
you know. And she also has a weird moment at the end of the film, like where she tries to trick him, and it's weird. I'm like, what am I even watching anymore?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm thinking about?
I think I'm coming into this because like
Okay.
it's when he sneaks in and like reveals to her that he is her son. And it's so odd because it's like what happens here, the motives behind what she's doing, I actually feel have genuine potential to like play with morals, but she is played up like a Disney villain. So you end up feeling sympathy for neither of them because you're like, dude, why are you not listening? So basically what happens is she says to Alexander Skarsgård that, well, actually I was involved in your father's killing as well because I
planned it with your uncle,
because I was in an abusive relationship with him and he was he was basically,
which we hardly got to see. It would have helped if we got to see the dad being a bit, or the king,
a bit of an asshole, but he was just a good father.
Yeah, and I literally, all I saw, I was like, no, you weren't unfairly treated, you ungrateful.
Yeah. So she basically says, yeah, he was abusing me and I was actually in love with your uncle, so I orchestrated this whole thing. And like that is an interesting point because
but why does she hate her son?
Yeah,
like why does she hate her son? I don't get it. Why does she hate Alexander Skarsgård? What did he ever do? But she ordered to have him killed as well.
Yeah,
and exactly. They failed. He escaped.
I can assume she's like trying to get away from like the memory, but she's too Disney villain about it. And like it's like I said, like there is strong potential here because up until it is something that could throw a spanner into Alexander Skarsgård's resolve, or whatever his character is called, and it could then.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, and it's called what?
Amleth. Let's call him Amleth because I feel like Alexander Skarsgård is just too long of a name to say.
So Amleth then he could have a huge moment of debate of like, okay, what do I actually do here? Do I listen to my mother or not? But then it totally flips round and she starts smiling manically and then tries to fuck him.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And like suddenly like, okay, no sympathy anymore.
She literally leans in and kisses him and he looks conflicted, like he really wants to make out with her. Like, and I'm literally sat there and I'm like like
why is your resolve to this situation? First you wanted to kill him, why is your resolve to then attempt to fuck yourself? Like, what is this achieving? Why are you doing this? What is this achieving? And all it has done effectively is make us dislike you, make Alexander Skarsgård's whole motive for like revenge completely irrelevant, because he can't save you anymore because you're basically Cruella.
It's just I don't get it. I don't get any of it.
No. I also felt like there was such a strong theme in the beginning of like kids being killed.
Yeah. But then he killed his brother.
Yeah, but nothing really comes of that in the end.
No.
It feels like there should be some kind of like, I don't know, there's going to be a moment. I was anticipating a moment of, because it's basically because when he's a kid, people are trying to attack him. And then when he goes to Russia, he clearly has some issues with other people killing kids. I was expecting there to be a moment where he kills a kid and then that creates revenge or like the whole vengeance
Okay,
thing. But it
he
doesn't
does
really,
save the kid first, right?
yeah.
Which actually leads me on to that. Okay, continue. Finish
Yeah.
what you were going to say.
I don't remember the plot, the ending clearly enough, but that thread seemed to kind of fizzle out somewhere. Which I thought was a bit of a shame, considering you'd like anchored it so strongly in the beginning, but it didn't really have that much.
It's like a theme that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
He kills his mum, right? And then I think he kind of accidentally kills his brother because his mum has had a kid with the uncle, right? And he's quite young. He must be like maybe 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And he accidentally actually kills him. I think he kind of tries to resist, but then he kills him.
I don't remember how he accidentally kills him. I just don't remember how.
I think so. When he's killed Nicole Kidman, I think her name is like Queen.
I didn't even remember that he killed Nicole Kidman.
Oh yeah, like she hid. He went in to kill her. She hid behind the weave. She's weaving something like a big weave, not a tablet braid thing. And I think she jumps out, tries to stab him. He kills her, and then her new son, his younger brother, jumps on his back to sort of avenge his mum, right? Because he doesn't know they're brothers. And I guess she's been a good mum to him because she actually loves this kid because she had him with the uncle who she actually loves. And he comes like with the knife, and Amleth, the main character, he just like flips him over and just stabs him. And then I think the uncle walks in and he's like, "You've killed my family." And then
but it was already clear that he
like
had reasons to kill him anyway, even before.
Technically, he kills him out of self-defense, right? The kid attacks him because he attacks Nicole Kidman. But it's not like he shows any regret. He has no emotional. Maybe I've remembered this wrong, but he doesn't seem to have any emotional reaction to it. He just moves on with the plan. And I'm like, okay, so what was the point?
Yeah.
Why kill him if there's like, you've had this whole children situation, this whole thing, and then he kills his brother, and like there's no regret, there is no triumph, like there's just nothing.
Can I also say one of my final points on my list? I can imagine there's more to talk about, but I appreciated aesthetically how their climax happened in a Tekken arena. Have you played much Tekken?
No.
Okay.
I am not following you right now at all. I'm literally sat here with a floating question mark in my head. Like, what are you on about? I hardly remember the end. I remember how they die. They both die.
We'll have to look up like a picture side-by-side comparison. Basically, in Tekken 5, do you know how Tekken works? Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Tekken is a fighting game, so it's like a 2-player fighting game.
How do you spell it? I'm just going to be really annoying and look it up on my phone. I just need to visualize this. Is it TEKK? I swear everyone is listening to this right now. You might as well just check it. If you're not driving, if you're not like loading the dishwasher or whatever, you might as well just get your phone out. It's and
TEKKEN, and specifically look up Tekken 5 End Boss Arena. Basically, they are fighting in a volcano barefoot, most of the characters. The volcano slips and slides. And my biggest question is, in Tekken, is why are they fighting on lava barefoot and close to lava? And
have you played this?
What?
Have you played this?
Yeah, I've played it. Is why are they fighting and they're not like burning up? But in Tekken, Tekken's got a bit of a weird vibe to it. I can accept it. But they kind of do the exact same thing in this film because they're fighting around a volcano barefoot.
But they're not at this point. They're not even on Earth anymore. They're not in.
I don't know where they are.
No, I think they're in here.
Yeah.
In hell, basically.
But hell is supposed to be cold.
Don't ask me. Or in Muspelheim.
Yeah.
That's meant to be hot, like the land of the giants. Like that's meant to be the land of fire. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
I don't know
it's
how they
just a
got there.
useless fight. We all know they're both going to die because there's no outcome. Even if he won this fight and survived, he's got nothing out of it. Literally, everyone he knows is dead except the witch lady that he actually. I keep in my head she's just Emma because she plays Emma in Emma, but her name is actually Anya Taylor Joy.
Mm.
She the the character is called Olga of the Birch Forest, and I love that. That's a great name for a character. Olga escapes and she has his kids, which also that moment on the boat makes no sense. But he basically dies, and the death is really odd. He puts a sword in him and he chops his head off, and it's just a weird way. Their bodies like in slow motion fall to the ground, and I'm like, this is taking way too long. Like, okay, yeah, but they're basically in this land of fire, volcano, lava place.
Yeah. I can say I don't actually remember what happens at the very, very end because I think I'd super stopped caring by that point.
I almost fell asleep. I'm not gonna lie. I considered just closing my eyes and I'll watch. And I thought my boyfriend had fallen asleep next to me. I was like, "Are you asleep? It's okay to sleep." And every time he looked at me like bleary eyed, like, "No, I'm watching." Like, I honestly in the cinema, people were on their phones. Like I saw screens, I saw like screen lights, like from people were like whispering, like people's like their attention spans. But I mean, the film was too long. Did you not feel? I think it was just all way too
I
long.
watched it in like 2 sessions because it was
so
long.
long.
But I have to say it's definitely not. It's not great, but it's not the most boring film I've ever watched. Especially
there were points when I was like, when is it?
I've definitely had worse. I mean, I was working in a cinema for a while, so I got free tickets to go and see anything, and I saw a lot at that point, and there was some really slow things. But yeah, it's just like I said, like there's so much effort that has gone into set design, into cinematography, into everything. Like I bet it's like a cinematographer who has come up with the idea to do this because there is so much emphasis on the visuals, and a cinematographer with good contacts.
They have the whole family tree situation, don't they? This whole magical, their family tree, their life force kind of thing, which I wish they'd almost spent more time on that, because that whole mythological part of the story, the world building, I felt like it had potential, because we came back to it at the end, didn't we, with his kids being in this family tree. And it was weird, but if they had spent more time on it and actually then it could have been something quite interesting.
If the script had had a few more passes in the writing process, then something a bit more concrete could have come out of it. I feel, but because it's a lot of effort for something that feels kind of like
like the plot, it felt like there was lots of thought into the visuals, lots of thought into the mythology or the world building, but then the plot wasn't actually thought through. Like there wasn't actually a story there.
No.
And it didn't carry, all the way through. I want to point out one thing I actually really liked. There's a scene when they play a game. They go somewhere, I think, to play against another village or something. And there's this kind of ball game that they've got two sides of the court with a line or something. They're meant to get the ball across the other side. And they kind of got like hockey sticks, don't they? There's something between like rugby and field hockey, I feel like. Do you remember the scene?
Yeah, I remember that scene.
And they're sat on a sort of, they're sat watching it, right? And they order Amleth to play on one of the teams, and then he plays basically as a slave. They're like, you're going to play on this team and win it or whatever. And there's this huge guy that also plays it. And then for some reason, they basically, when they tackle someone, they smash, they just kill the person. They literally beat that person up so they're no longer in the game. And for some reason, his younger brother, the kid enters the game somehow to take part in the game, and this huge guy is going to basically smash his head in with his hockey club or hockey stick, and Amleth saves him, right? That's the point where it's like he saves his brother at one point, but then he goes on to kill him anyways.
Yeah.
But, you know, I actually quite like that
the
scene.
point where like he kills the other guy by smashing his head against.
Yeah. So he kills the big guy and saves his brother.
And
I
I
quite
did
like
have a
this.
slight question that if he hit his head hard enough against the other guy's head to crush his skull, how has he not got any injuries?
Oh yeah, doesn't he do like a head?
Repeatedly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
Alexander Skarsgård, he's
indestructible.
He's got plot armor like no other. He's got this intense plot armor until the very end where he just dies. But you know, I like that scene. The pace was nice. It was quite funny, entertaining. I don't know if this game at all exists. I don't know a lot about Viking games. It felt made
There are a lot
up,
of very brutal games, so it's not impossible, but it's not something I personally know of.
No, but it was I quite liked the scene. I just enjoyed watching it actually, and I was like, this is quite a nice change. I don't know why we had that scene. It did nothing for the actual plot. Like it didn't contribute whatsoever. I don't know who the opposing team was. If it was a tournament, I can't remember, but it was just a fun scene in the midst of all this.
If it had a little bit more context, it would have worked. Because I guess the point of the scene was so that Skarsgård could save the kid.
Yeah, and then kill him. But then nothing really came of that either. So, you know. But I just appreciated that sequence. It was quite nice. So I want to point out that I don't just dislike this film.
No, there are some redeeming points, and it's like, which makes it not feel like it doesn't feel like, oh, this is a crap film that shouldn't have existed. It feels like there's so much.
It had potential, and it just didn't deliver. That's it. Just the plot didn't carry. Like there were great, like, you know, the setting, the costumes, the visuals, the whole mythology behind it. Like the family tree was very artistic in a weird way, but it was, you know. But then the plot there wasn't actually a plot. I felt, and I spoke about this with Dennis, with my partner, that it felt as though he was actually going to reclaim his home. I was walking around waiting for him to return to the Atlantic to claim back the castle, because the city had been taken over by the uncle. And then they made a whole point of mentioning that the uncle had then been invaded and they'd taken the city from him, and he'd escaped to Iceland, right? And now he was in Iceland in this tiny little village that he was ruling over or whatever. And it just, why make this whole point of the city being in someone else's hands? Otherwise, he could have just stayed in the city, and Amleth could have gone to the city and just killed him there. Like, why go to Iceland? Like, I didn't understand why they even changed location when they could have, like, so I felt like we were just waiting for him to go back and reclaim his home. And he didn't.
It's like, I feel like I feel like there's something that they couldn't quite understand with like the main plot running through it. And if we talk about like archetypal plot types, I would say it couldn't decide if it was a tragedy or a hero's journey.
Yeah, that's
kind of what I feel like. It has themes of both all the way through. But it doesn't really firmly settle in one or the other. It just doesn't
resolve in anything. He just dies. They both just die. And in that sense, it felt like a tragedy, but when I left, I felt like I hadn't gotten anything out of it. The story didn't teach me a lesson. I didn't feel fulfilled in any way. I just felt like that was a waste of money going to see that. Like,
we now have 60 minutes of
totally
podcast.
worth it. There was something else. I brought this up when I ranted about this at the virtual writing group in the morning, that he and then what was her name? The witch of the birch forest, Olga of the birch forest, and Amleth. They conspired. They make this plan to kill him, right? Because they're both slaves. And they're chatting, literally. always just, they have a chat where everyone can pretty much see them. They basically just go around the corner and they discuss the next part of their plan. And no one ever finds them, like no one stumbles upon them, no one notices that they're making up this plan, no one hears them. I don't understand this. Like, they're planning every part of the plan out in the open.
And like
what? And then Thomas made a point. Thomas made a point that there are volcanoes on Iceland and that they're so loud. I've never been to Iceland. He said the volcanoes are so loud that you can't actually hear people if they whisper or speak.
Like, no, all the time.
Thomas is going to listen to this podcast and he's just going to be like, you threw me under the bus. That's not what I said. You misunderstood me. And I'm so sorry if I misunderstood you, Thomas. But the way I understood you when you said this was that it's so loud. Maybe you were just joking. Maybe you were genuine. Maybe you're right. And I've just never been to Iceland and I don't know. But I understood, the way I understood it, the way what you said was that volcanoes are so loud that you wouldn't be able to hear someone whisper loudly, you know? And so people wouldn't have heard them make the plans. But my argument is that why would they let two slaves speak in the first place? Do you know what I mean? If you had slaves, not that you should ever imagine having slaves, like, but my point is, if you owned slaves and they went off behind a building, you'd be like, what are they up to? I should follow. Or if you saw them just speaking in the open, you'd be like, hey, get back to work. Like, that's okay. I should shut up. But I just don't understand why no one noticed them. Now, Thomas might have a point about the volcanoes. I don't know. I have no idea. Is it constant? Is it really loud on ice? I look like a fool. I realize this. I have no idea. I don't know if he was taking the piss. I don't know if it was genuine.
It sounds like a joke. And
okay,
like, if
well, I believed
him. Then it would
at
be
the time. I believed him, and I felt really silly. And I was like, well, of course the volcanoes are so loud they wouldn't be able to hear. But still, my point stands. No one noticed them make this plan.
Yeah.
And they made the plan out in the open at several locations, and how that makes no sense.
But I feel like that is a recurring like trope in TV shows and films in general, is people having really unnaturally loud conversations about things that are actually very, very secretive. That happen. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but I feel like I've seen about a dozen different things that do that.
I just know, like, but then I must say that I also really like Olga of the Birch Forest. She had some really good scenes when he tries to rape her and she like smears her period blood on him. Like, that's a good scene. Like, it's just genuinely, it's a good scene. And then she with her mushrooms and stuff, like, she's cool. I liked her. And then she, you know, but
didn't do anything.
And she saves Amlet. I don't know, he's like beaten up. They've left, I don't know. She somehow saves him on one horse. I need to point this out. On one horse, she rides away with him and she puts them in this sort of little bath thing, sort of pool, warm pool that I guess they have on Iceland, right? Like these really warm.
Yes, they have hot springs.
Hot springs, thank you, that's the word. And she like cleans him here or whatever, and then she just gives him a fresh set of clothes. And I'm like, where did the clothes where did they come from? I don't understand. They're in the middle of nowhere.
They're quite nice clothes as well.
Yeah. Oh, so all credits to the costumes, but this particular scene makes no sense. The clothes are nice. They're like blue and clean and they fit perfectly and they just appeared from nowhere. And then when they ride to this ship that they're gonna escape on, they have two horses. They literally escaped on one. He was like on the back of the horse behind her, and now she's got two. They have no money. I just don't get it. Literally, I don't get it. And then they get to the ship, and he's got this coin to pay with. And I honestly must have missed it because it seemed like a very important coin. That he was like, this coin will get me passage across to safety. Like she'd stolen it from the uncle, and maybe I missed it. But I'm like, where did this coin show up from? Like this token of some kind, it just like appeared from nowhere. And then they get safe passage, and then I don't know. And then he runs back anyways to kill his uncle and leaves her on this ship. Yeah.
Basically, the moral of this story is if you like films with more plot holes than holes
Thank you,
in
plot
your
holes.
Swiss cheese, then watch The Northman.
It was beautiful to look at, but it just did not. The plot holes and a lot of things were just put into the story as plot elements that, or like plot tools.
Yeah, and I think they were mostly focusing on what it was going to look like.
Yeah, and it was pretty, but I wish they had spent more time on the plot and the script and just the characters.
Yeah.
The characters' motives, their wants and their needs and their goals. Like a lot of the times I didn't know what they were doing or why they were doing it, and what the point was, not for the plot or for the character arc at all. So that's just because at the end I came out of there and I'm like, the moral of the story is don't avenge your father because you'll die. And don't save your mum because she basically wanted you dead in the first place. The thing is, it's got really good reviews. Really good reviews. And I don't know if they're genuine people or if they've been paid to give that, because it's like 5-star reviews. Like if I look on IMDb now, it's got 7.2 stars out of 10.
What does like the top review say?
On IMDb, I usually check Rotten Tomatoes, but the top review actually says 4 out of 10. Surprisingly mediocre. Where do I start? No real drama, no character development, the most cornball dialogue, sloppy plot, poor use of a potentially spectacular landscape, bland soundtrack. I think any episode of Vikings would surpass this film. It's a shorter review, so I'll read it all. I was blown away by how ordinary it was and almost walked out. It was cinema by numbers that added up to far less than its parts. This film should have been an absolute epic. Terribly disappointing. It was well over 2 hours of boredom. Anyone claiming it a masterpiece should be banned from entering Valhalla. This review actually sums up everything we said
in the last hour.
Who is this person? I want to give them credit. 1,025 people out of 1,597 found this review helpful. I will give it a thumbs up. Oh no, I'm not signed in. I would have genuinely given that a thumbs up. And it's the person who's written this review calls themselves Control Alt Delete. Control Alt Delete. Whoever you are, I can't tap your name. Unfortunately, I want to read more of your reviews for other
We will
people.
raise a glass of mead in your honor. To finish off on a slightly different note, do you have any recommendations this time around?
Yes, I do. Oh no, I'm reading a really good book, and I wanted to recommend this, and I was going to show it for you, but I put it in the other room. I am reading a book called Naondel, or Naondel. It's Finnish Swedish, and it's a made-up word, so it's very hard to say. It's the second book in a trilogy, and the trilogy is called Chronicles from the Red. I want to say monastery, but that's not the word. I will put it in the show notes. But it's basically I don't really like the word feminist fantasy, because I feel like just because it's strong women doesn't mean like it has to be feminist. But it's a very empowering book for women who seek refuge in this island, and then men attack this island, and it's the way they survive on this island. And it's beautifully written. It is translated to English. It's actually translated to a couple of languages. As a Swedish person, it's a bit tricky, not tricky to read it. It's written in Finnish Swedish, so it reads a bit funny, but very artistically written. It's beautifully written, and I really enjoy it. And it's got some really strong, wonderful women in like characters. I want to say in the cast, but it's a book, so I don't know. and the first book is not very long. The second book is about twice as long. It says young adult, but I would actually say it's adult. It follows a young woman, but the maturity of the book, it really is for adults, I would say. And it's just, if you want something different, like a feminine or a female-led fantasy, I truly recommend it. It's like a modern classic. Really.
Did you say you said it was in Swedish, the version you're reading?
Yeah, so it's in Finnish, Swedish,
English
which
translation?
Yeah, there is, and I think it's translated to a bunch of European languages as well. All the covers for the different languages are beautiful, and she's won prizes for this book. But the unfortunate thing is that I think because it's a Scandinavian book, it just hasn't, even though it's been translated, no one speaks about it, and it's won prizes, but it's just no one is reading it, and I'm like, it's not, I think it's from like 2016 or 2013. Like, it's not particularly old, but it definitely is a modern classic. It's fabulous. It's a little, I don't want to say slow, but it's like when you're reading it, you're like, why am I reading it? But you can't stop. I think it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful fantasy, very different from what's out there. Highly, highly recommend. What about you?
I don't have so much to recommend at the moment because I've been watching through some other like series, but nothing that I feel like I want to say. And I'm still rereading The Wheel of Time, so
I still to get to that. I said
for.
that when I'm going to Gotland, I will read that book, and then we will do an episode about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
I'll have to watch the first season as well.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to that. And you have to read enough so that you catch up when the second season comes out, because I'm
so basically you're telling me I have to read the second book as well.
We can discuss
that's what you're telling me.
We can discuss that later.
Okay.
But so what I'm going to do instead is comment on something that I noticed just this morning.
Okay.
That I am hoping I'm not going to make Netflix shout at me while I try to check what this was, and it's not coming up anymore. I can look it up again later. But basically, I went onto Netflix this morning and saw that there is a Japanese anime. Well, most animes are Japanese. That is set in the Viking Age.
Wait, what?
I can't remember what it was.
This might be my gateway drug. Like, this might be my way into anime.
I don't know how old it is.
Vinland is a place in Norse mythology. Vinland Saga from 2019.
Vinland is America.
But it's got 8 out of 10 out of 10.
Yeah, so basically this is something
8.8 out of 10.
So this is something I did not know existed until this morning, and now I'm like, okay, this is definitely on my own personal to watch list. So watch this space.
I don't know if I can get Dennis to watch this, but and the thing is, I don't watch things my own. If I'm going to watch something, I need to make him watch it as well. But I'm going to try and convince him, because this might, at least an episode, to see what it's like.
Before we close, I have a final thing I would like to do. So now I actually do have something to read out to you.
Okay. Well, you did in the beginning of the podcast too.
Yeah, but this is now something actually from me.
Okay.
I wrote literally 15 minutes before this.
Okay.
So it's not very long. So let's go.
Okay.
Anuhea dug her fingers into the rock face, heaving her trembling body over yet another ledge. Darkness had fallen long ago, and the sharp chill of icy wind scourged through her woolen wrappings. Her nails ached, and it took all of her willpower to keep her muscles from giving up to the cold. One mistake here would mean certain death. Blindly, she felt her way forward, searching for yet another spot to hold on to. Occasionally, the moon would peer out from behind the inky swell of clouds above, providing Anuhea with a brief glimpse of the frosted peak above. Always looming, always distant. It seemed to her that she would never make it in time. Somewhere down below, a Wiladash let out a mighty scream. My challenge to you now is to continue for next time.
No, are you joking? Oh, that's so much fun. Oh my God. Do you know, I was sat there and I was like, first of all, I'm super, that it's good. I'm like, I was paying attention, but also I've never read or listened to anything you've written. we've never actually shared our writing with each other. You did show me your short story that I was going to read that I haven't read, which is just my bad. But this is so cool. This is, we'll get to know each other a bit more as writers. This is exciting.
And have a little writing exercise.
Yeah, I know. This is like flash fiction a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll have to send that over to me. I think it would be amazing if we could maybe copy and paste that into the show notes so that people could read that back, and then maybe over time they could read the whole story, because together I think that would be super cool. I would love to keep going on that. I think that'd be something fun to tinker with, outside of my other writing project. We didn't talk anything about writing today, actually, but it wasn't an episode for that, really. How cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I accept the challenge.
I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Okay, I'm so nervous. I don't know if I can write it or read anything that I've written in front of people. Well, in front of a screen for people that, okay. Okay, I'm like sat here like already nervous. Okay, but that's cool.
Anyway, I think for that we should wrap up and say thank you for listening today again very much.
Yeah, and thank you for all the support for the first episode. It was I had very low expectations, and I'm just impressed and so touched that people took the time to listen to us ramble about everything and nothing. It was I hope that you'll enjoy this podcast. I realize this particular episode is a bit
longer, but
it's a bit long and it's a bit specific. Either you enjoy listening to people rant about something you haven't watched that you can't relate to, or you just happen to have watched the Northman, So thank you for listening. If you've stayed with us for, way over an hour, and hopefully you'll stick around for the third episode.
Yeah, we look forward to
I
seeing
have no idea what it will be about.
Viking village?
I hope so. I was thinking that. Yeah. I think it'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll see you next time.